All right, so we're live
Cool.
on YouTube.
YouTube.
So yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. How the heck are you?
Great.
That's good.
Hi, YouTube.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed about this setup, for whatever reason, is like my bald spot is really clear, which is strange because I'm not even like back, like my back's not to the camera.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
No, I
You
haven't.
just notice it in general.
Yeah, I guess I'm just used to it by now.
Yeah, that's understandable. I didn't used to be self-conscious about these things. It's the sort of thing that happens when you have a midlife crisis, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Crisis.
Wow. Anyway, so I wanted to, kind of do a recap, talking broadly, because like we've talked a lot about the symposium.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to just do that. I want to talk broadly about the purpose of trade events, because,
Okay.
We've done a few of these together now, you and I, probably more than anyone else at Kalos, I'd say.
Yeah.
Although you missed AHR last time.
I did.
Yeah. And you're going to also miss the Educators Conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, actually, I want to hear your perspective on that. So, like, juxtapose, that's a big word, juxtapose the Educators Conference, which is the ESCO. And I think they call it the Education Conference now. I think they changed that a little bit because it seems like they are inviting people more broadly to it, which is a great conference.
Yeah.
Focused on education. AHR, which the last one I think you were at was the one in Orlando.
Yeah.
Right? And then the HVACR Training Symposium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put on by those weird people in Claremont, Florida.
Okay.
So talk through that.
Talk about these things?
Yeah. Talk about the difference.
Okay. Well,
from your perspective.
Sure.
So, from my perspective,
the AHR was pretty incredible. The scope and seeing all the money that's in this industry. And I mean, it just
people
blew my mind.
Showed you money.
Yeah. Everybody showed me money with massive like displays and 2-story setup inside of a building and
like meeting rooms upstairs.
Yeah, it's like a mile long of walking through stuff. And that was fun. And well, I actually really like that because I was walking around and there was people from all over the world that came up and recognized me. And that was awesome.
That was, but it sent you into like a tail because you were really on Bert Life prior to that. Like you were Bert Lifing it up, and then you were really popular. You were in the peak of your fame at that moment. Then that happened, and then you were like, "No, I'm done here." Like what was that all about?
I don't want to talk about what that was all about.
Oh
no, it just happened that way.
Okay.
Yeah, life happened at the same time. Yep. But yeah, that was really fun. And actually, to contrast that, like the symposium is like HVAC school. I mean, everybody who knows everybody, like no one shows up there and doesn't know who everybody is, even me. And so it's like,
you feel surprise. Like there's a lot of people there who we don't know.
Sure, we don't know,
but who they seem to all.
But they all know anybody who's connected with HVAC school or So no surprise to have everybody coming up and talking to you or knowing who your name is if you don't know who their name is, which was different at the AHR when that was a surprise for me to have random people. But then to contrast that with the Educators Conference, nobody knew who I was at the Educators Conference. So
that isn't true. So Jason,
not nobody, but there was a big difference.
Yeah.
So you can just kind of see the circle that I don't fit in with. Real smart
educated
educators.
People. So the first event that I went to that I actually felt that kind of sense of community and felt walked away with a big impact was the Educators Conference, actually. And it was in Orlando. Now they're doing it, I think, almost every year at the South Point Hotel and casino in Vegas. I think that's pretty consistent. I mean, you want to shut that off? I mean, it's only
I got to take this text.
So what was different about that for me was in a lot of the other, because I had gone to AHR several times, and AHR, it has a lot of contractors and actually has a lot more now than it used to. It seems like it, at least I can't quantify that, but it seems like there's more technicians and contractors than there used to be. But it's just so big and it's so full of like reps and manufacturing, people from the manufacturing sector, a lot of people in suits, kind of the ASHRAE bunch and the AHRI bunch. And It's nothing wrong with suits, like I'm not going to be critical of it, but let's just say that maybe I don't fit in as well in that group.
Sure.
So you don't feel that
the
double
focus
connection.
of like just money and consumer stuff. I mean it's why it's there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so in
totally
defense of my friends at AHR, so
Mhm.
I can imagine I'm going to get the email from Nicole who's going to be like, hey,
Mhm.
you kind of no, like it's a great conference, and they've done a lot better job, I think, over the last couple of years of including contractors and technicians, like with the podcast pavilion and all that
doing
stuff.
education stuff.
And they've certainly reached out to us. Like they've been very
Mhm.
active in reaching out to us and having taking feedback. And
Yeah,
all that.
I'm not saying it's bad. It was just it's actually in a
different. It
good
is
way
different.
for me to see like,
Yeah.
whoa, there's so much more to this industry, and
Yeah.
there's so much potential, even like career wise. Like it just blew my mind.
Yeah. Right. And actually, that's coming away from it. That's how I always feel, is like this idea that you have to be stuck doing one job, or that there isn't, that just being a technician your whole career is what you have to do. And there's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with it if that is what you end up doing, for sure. But that isn't the case.
Yeah.
There's massive opportunities for different directions and all that. And that's the sense you get when you go to AHR. But back to the Educators Conference. So what was different about that to me, and I think probably it's because it's where I met Bill Spohn the first time in person,
Mhm.
and a lot of other people,
Mhm.
it was the chance to kind of like sit down, actually go to dinner with some people who, spend time with people. There was that space.
Yeah.
And then the sessions you go into are talking about stuff that's pertinent to our careers. It's like, it's talking about, the refrigerant side and air side and combustion and design. I mean, I think the Educators Conference you went to, you met some people that now are kind of like symposium friends, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then also exactly what you're saying with the classes that they did there and stuff. I was just surprised at how little I knew. And it was a really good
Yeah.
thing to sit there and realize there's so much to grow in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they do a good job showing that, because they bring in a lot of really good people for that.
Yeah. In terms of size, it's significantly larger than the symposium, significantly smaller than AHR. We're talking about the Educators Conference, and very focused on, or the Education Conference, very focused on education, focused on tools for education. So talking a lot about how to teach. For example, this year, Dick Wers and I are going to talk about different learning styles and different ways of reaching different people in their careers at different levels. Whether it's, I forget what they call it. The three different levels would be like, high school students versus adult students in a school versus people who are already in the field. And obviously my focus is people who are already in the field. So they do a lot of that, and then they do just a lot of really like technical stuff. So like Ed Hvac, I think you sat in on one of his presentations, and you guys got into like an egg fight in it, I think.
No, not in that one. That was actually great. We got in our fight once he came back here, and I'm like, what are you doing at our house?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
It was great.
I like that body language. Yeah.
And he was like, wait, it was that intense? Was it good or bad? And I was like, well, your show was really entertaining. He's like, yeah, that was me then. I was there. It was great.
Eric Kaiser was at, I think, at the Educators Conference where I first got to hang out, I think. But anyway, the point just is that I'm using these three events, and certainly there are more. I mean, there are a lot of business type events. Service World Expo is one that a lot of people go to, kind of for more the business side of things. I've never been, but I hear it's good. The ACA conference this year, it's in Kansas City. I couldn't make it this year. And I actually have never been to the AHRI conference, but they asked if we would do podcasts and stuff there, which sounded fun, but I just couldn't make it. So there are a lot of events like that. But from your perspective, I guess, just coming off the symposium, for people who maybe haven't seen the value, or maybe you're curious about like what the value is, how would you describe the value of an event like that?
Like the symposium?
Like the symposium specifically, because the symposium is a little different in that, but we'll kind of start there, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I was wanting to create, kind of what inspired me to create it this way. But
okay, so just the classes that are done, I mean, I'll start with that because that's what's being advertised there, are so good and so rich, and are taught by people that you've selected as authorities in the field, but also like someone who's actually had life experience in this. And so, I mean, there wasn't anybody here teaching classes that didn't have the respect of the industry. And so nobody, because they had some position, some important position that everyone had to suck up to or whatever, this was just a training event. So hand selected for people that could bring the best And everyone here felt that,
Yeah.
and that's a really cool thing. So the training classes are great in that way. But I mean, what was the most dynamic to me was just feeling like, I mean, we called it like uh, the brotherhood of the group, like just feeling like the HVAC industry has a lot of people with a common passion for what we're doing and what we're learning and what we're experiencing in life. And so the friendship dynamic was just so cool. Showing up here and having people that understand completely what you're doing, no matter where you're at in like this industry, like people here have experienced it, they understand it, they want to talk about it. And so there was just amazing conversations that happen outside of the classroom that, I don't know, for me, just helped me get excited about what I'm doing.
Yeah, and it is about being excited about what we do specifically. It is about HVACR and building science and all that stuff. But there's also this other thing that I think
The
gets
human
missed.
element of, can I wait? Shh, don't say anything. I'm going to fill it in.
Okay.
There's this other thing about like every time you turn that down, does that turn my voice down?
Yeah, it does. You're annoying me, so I just turn it down.
Yeah.
I just said,
Okay.
no, that's not what's
Yeah.
happening. No,
Yeah.
I'm just switching camera angles just for fun.
It's like the way that it connects us with real people behind what that are doing all this and connects us to their lives and their stories.
Yeah.
And how that impacts us. Like that was the coolest thing for sure about this.
Yeah, and so back to back to what I was about to say.
Oh, I
If you
thought
don't
I said
mind.
what you were about
I mean,
to say.
kind of.
Okay.
But there are your true extroverts. There are people who, and like, I don't know if you would be. I think you're pretty extroverted. Yeah, you would definitely be pretty extroverted.
I'm an extrovert.
Yeah, you're an extrovert. But there's sort of true extroverts, like your sales type people, and you see this in the business groups. Okay. What? Oh, you're looking at.
Is it fine if I watch
myself? No, that's
live?
fine. You can watch yourself live, and you can also, because you can see the comments.
Wow, there's
and
so
if
many
there are
people
any
commenting.
questions,
Good morning, all
that sort of
day.
thing. Yeah, if you want to, I mean, I did have something I wanted to say.
Yeah,
if you wanted to,
should I listen?
maybe. I mean, if you just wanted to focus for a second,
Okay,
that would
all
be.
right.
I mean, that would be appreciated.
All right.
Yeah, it's no. I mean, it's no big deal. So, the point I was going to make is there are types of people who can talk about anything, and small talk, politics, the weather, whatever. But for me, and I think a lot of people who are like us, I'll just say us as a trade. Sometimes it's not, we talk so much about passion for the trade, but that comes and goes. I mean, let's be honest, like we are talking about repairing, installing air conditioners,
right.
and it's good to be passionate about that. But what it does, and you see this with people who are definitely introverts. I mean, I think of people like, Max Johnson or, Steve Rogers, those types of folks, and you see them come alive because they have something to talk about that they care about, that they know. Right. That matters to them. That matters not just to them, but to the world. Like it's something that's meaningful.
Right.
And that to me is what's really cool, is having a context for connection. So a context meaning something that allows you to connect to another human that then feeds into just valuing them in general.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have had an opportunity to care about so many of these people, Jenry Garcia or Michael Hausch or, all these really great people who are Neil Comparetto, who are part of the group. I wouldn't have had a chance to care about them as humans if I didn't have a context to communicate with them about our trade.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that I notice. And there are a lot of these people who you see these kind of common traits where you do this job that's fairly thankless. And you do care about it, because whatever you do, you're going to care about, right? And it's just your personality. You're not going to do something and not care about what you're doing. You're not going to do something and not care about how it works or be interested in it.
Right.
So that's the type of person that it is. But sometimes when you get into a room with people, like you go to a chamber event or you go to some, business mixer or whatever, and it's like,
right.
What do I say? And like, I'm awkward, I'm uncomfortable. Whereas if you get in a group with people and it's like, oh, true flow grid, how about that true flow grid? Right. It's like, oh yeah. And then you dive in, or like, what about, mass flow rate? People always get that screwed up, and then you start talking, and then next thing you know, you're friends. And next thing you know about their families and their spouses and their kids and their just all that kind of stuff. And now you're talking about all that stuff. And then you see that over and over and over again. And every year, and again, this happens other places too. This can happen at AHR. Definitely happens at the Educators Conference. I've definitely seen that. It's a little more structured. Ours is kind of like, it's kind of unstructured. It's kind of crazy. But you see that every year people come away, and what do they talk about is the people. And a lot of them will give me credit as if I did something, but the reality of what I did was just say, here, talk with each other. And the classes also provide a context for focus. Like, okay, well now I know this person, and I know they just talked about market refrigeration. So now I'm going to talk to them about CO2. And that's an interesting topic to me. So back to kind of like the inspiration for this, I went to Building Science Summer Camp, which is kind of like an invite-only building science event put on by Joe Stiebrick up in Wexford, Massachusetts. That's the informal name. The official name is the Wexford Building Science Symposium. So you'll catch the word there. And that event was I was definitely on the edge of that event. Like I was not. Most of the stuff they talked about, about. Because it's about building science as a whole. It's not just the stuff we care about in air conditioning. So it's talking about like fire protection and structures and building structures, better, just buildings better, all the sides of building science. And I went into the sessions and it's like, whoa, this is way over my head. And I can imagine that that's probably how a lot of people feel when they come here and they're listening to, Alex Meany or Nikki Kruger or Ed John Hvac or, all these people talk about some of these more complicated building science topics. Let alone Rick Sims. I mean, like I went to Rick Sims session again, and it's just like my brain was just melting out of my ears. I mean, that guy is so ridiculously smart. And I don't think he realizes how much he intimidates me, because he walks up and just starts talking about all this stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, you know about this, you know about that, just assuming I know it all. I'm like, oh yeah, Rick, absolutely. I know all of that. Just please don't ask me any questions about it.
Yeah, that describes my entire experience of the symposium or any other event.
Just hoping nobody asks you any detailed questions after you just agreed with everything they said. Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely, yeah. But anyway, the point is that that's how I felt there. But then in the evening, everybody loads up in vans and you go out to Joe's house, and he has this barn and all these tents set up, and people just hang out. They just hang out and get nerdy, and some of them drink a little too much, but they just enjoy one another's company, and it's a very positive experience. It's where I met Alex Meany. It's where I met Allison Bales and many others, that people who John Semmelhack and a lot of other people who, and I now have really good relationships with, people who I can appreciate in a deeper way. Everybody's super aggressive, but super kind to one another simultaneously, or they're just arguing, to the death about some detail, but actually really appreciating another person. And there's just something really cool about that. And so I came away from that like, all right, I'm not gonna be able to do that in the exact same way. I don't have the space for 700 people the way they do. But there's something that we can do that's going to be similar to that. And that's what the HVACR Symposium came from. So credit to Joe Stiebrick and that whole group, because without having experienced that event, an event that, I don't know if I'll get a chance to go again, or, it's a very, very specific niche event that I'm, like I said, just on the edges of. But that helped inspire what this is. And so a lot of people will ask like versions of, how are you going to grow it? How are you going to make it bigger? And I really don't know the answer to that. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like,
I had a lot of questions on that too. And part of it is just this feeling like, well, I don't want to, like, this is so great. Like there's a family feel to it that Chris Stevens said, kept calling it grassroots. It's like coming back to the roots, and where you have all of these, it's like it's a blue collar theme is what it feels like. The training that's there, the conversations that's there.
My brother not wearing a shirt. All very blue collar.
Yeah, exactly. And so just being able to connect with that with so many people. I mean, even a lot of the educators, they had years of experience in the field. So it'll flow straight into conversations with what some of us are experiencing every day.
Like me, for example. I worked in the field once.
I remember.
Do you remember that?
I do.
I was out in the field. I had tools. Just me.
What's going on out here?
Guys.
Where's the camera? Where's the mics? I'm getting out of this place.
Hurts my feelings.
Yeah. No, for sure. So the grassroots thing, like, I don't want it to turn into some monster event where everybody, where you can't connect with people and have that connection, and that, like what we had here. But at the same time, like, you immediately sold out like pretty quick. And there's a lot of people waiting and hoping to come back, and I want a lot more people to experience this. So I don't know. My thoughts, making it bigger. We are completely maxed out here. Like every class had like 15 people standing around for an hour and a half. Like people would come out of the class holding their back because they didn't want to leave the class, but they had to stand there for like an hour. I mean, it was full.
And we had like the fire inspector like call us multiple times.
Yeah.
Very concerned, which we did get, like we did it by the book. We really did, believe it or don't, but they were still very concerned about the number of cars that were parked.
Yeah.
Like the fire inspector called Sean and was like, yeah, but there's no building in this area that can hold that many people.
Right.
That's what he kept saying. And she's like, yeah, but it's an outside event. Remember you expected he's like, yeah, but there's no building.
Yeah, exactly.
They're having a hard time getting their heads around that. So anyway, yeah, I mean, who's to say? I think, so we are doing it next year, and we've already picked some dates. I don't remember, but it's like third week in January. So we're actually moving it up a little bit because AHR is a little later. So we're doing it 2 weeks before AHR rather than after, just so we don't bump into some of the other events. And the other reason is it was actually really hot here.
Right, it was.
So it would be okay. Like even if here it's in, let's say, worst case scenario 50s during the day.
Right.
That's going to contrast with a really cold season other places. So it'll make it, I think, it a little more, maybe a little more comfortable.
Sounds good.
So we're definitely doing that next year. But then beyond that, I really don't know. I'm open to things. I want to put out there, and this probably isn't the right place to do it, but like one of the ideas that I've had for a long time and that I would really like to bring to fruition, if anybody has any thoughts on this, is having like a destination training center somewhere that's that isn't in like a downtown
something I can call a retreat.
A retreat? You like the idea of a retreat? Is that a word that you like?
I don't know. You go to this place and there's like other really fun things to do there. Yeah.
Such as
like activities
like disc golf.
Yeah. Archery.
Archery.
I was shooting some people the last day of the symposium.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, with
my bow. Did you miss it?
No, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I don't think you should probably do that.
Okay. Well, they didn't mind.
Oh, okay. Did you ask their consent before shooting them with a bow?
Well, you have to surprise them or I might miss.
Oh, okay.
No, I did actually bring out my large foam tips for like arrow tag.
Okay.
And we played. Yeah.
Oh.
While cleanup was happening.
Oh, well, okay. While cleanup was happening. Okay. Well, that makes me uncomfortable.
I didn't shoot anybody during the classes.
I
resisted the urge to bring the bow in and shoot Nathan in the chest while he was sitting there.
That would have been definitely approved by me. That would have definitely been, of course, with the spring action, that probably would have boinged back and done more harm.
I mean, if you could take an event like this and put everybody even like staying in the same area, sleeping in the same retreat, like a camp out retreat symposium event.
Yeah, well, so we might be getting a little unrealistic, but my idea is to have a good size facility that allows hands-on training.
Yeah.
Kind of, similar to what we have here, kind of a warehouse environment, tents, that kind of thing. Close enough to hotels, that makes sense, but in a fairly suburban, rural setting, kind of like the Wexford Symposium is, and it isn't really rural, but he has this nice barn kind of venue that's large enough, has all the kind of the video equipment all pre-set up. It's just static. Companies can use it for their trainings to send people and to do those sorts of training retreats and all that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about large organizations and maybe even contractors. But something like that wouldn't have to be terribly expensive. I mean, obviously real estate is expensive right now,
sure.
But I don't like the idea of trying to wedge something because people are like, well, it's got to be really close to the airport. It's like, yeah, but the downside is if you're really close to the airport, then you've got these really expensive property prices and parking and all that. I want to have a place that people can park on site.
Hey, everybody showed up here and it worked.
Exactly. Yeah. Equipment, you can park, 700-800 people on site if you want. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. And you got space for tent, you got big building, and that to buy that type of property and it's not realistic in an urban environment for the type of thing I'm talking about. But if you could then set up all your training equipment, all your demo units, have static cameras, have static mics, kind of have everything all set up so that people can just show up, do trainings, both virtual and in person. I don't think it's that huge of a barrier. And that's to me, I think that's the only way I can think of that I really grow it.
Right.
Because I can't move it to a different city.
Right.
We talked about maybe 1 year having a version of it or having it up at True Tech. That may be possible because they have a staff, but it's just the reason it works here is because we have all these people here and
and
even so hard.
Even bringing everybody into an environment like a warehouse, like this is where we run our shop. This is where we this is our company place. Like, this is where we do all of that we do out of this place. It's really awesome to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to lose some of those things.
Yeah.
And it would take a really ideal scenario for me to be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's stop doing it here and move there. But yeah, I mean, there were several people that came up to me and said, hey, next year, do you want to do this bigger somewhere else?
Yeah, a lot of people did say that, but
Yeah.
then even more said, please don't change it.
Exactly. There was definitely more of that.
Yeah.
Which I understand.
Yeah. And
the thing that needs to not change is the education focus, because what happens is everyone shows up here and there's like a kindled passion for training, education, and improving this trade, improving people in the trade. And even like there's a lot of people that come here that produce their own content and make a big difference online, and actually give out free training and information online, like we're doing.
HVAC Overtime.
Yeah.
Chris Stevens, HVACR videos. Craig Migilaccio.
Yeah.
I probably still didn't say it right, but Neil Camparetto told me that when I pronounce Italian names, if you go, so I'm saying this came from an Italian.
Okay.
Again, like I'm not being.
Neil's never been wrong about anything.
I'm just saying. So he said, when you say an Italian name, if you go like this, it helps you say it.
Yeah.
So Craig, like, he's owning me.
Yeah.
In terms of YouTube, you're kicking my butt.
He's doing great.
He really is. I love Craig.
I had some great conversation with him.
Yeah, he is an excellent human.
That was like, it's like impossible to replace some of that. Like, yeah, like we had great conversation, life, God, work, family,
politics,
struggles.
You weren't there for the politics conversation.
Yeah, I skipped any politics.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but great. So I actually like intentionally created a conversation.
Once to see how people who really like each other can do this.
Well, right, because it was Alex Meany, who's definitely, he's from Massachusetts, right?
Sure.
And then there was Reagan Murphy, who's from Texas.
Yep.
And they were going at it, but I was kind of moderating, just sort of, and like you can just see, like they were having an intense conversation, but these are people who like each other,
right?
Value each other, can actually see another person's perspective. And like at the end, that's how it was. Like everybody had a great time. It was, and we talked about like the grittiest politics stuff you can possibly talk about, which I love that.
Right.
I don't love talking about politics if it's going to do harm, but I like it when you have reasonable people who have strongly held beliefs that can still hold their beliefs and not change. Like you don't need to change your belief, but you come away from it like, oh, okay. Like I see you, I get you.
Yeah.
That sounded very woke of me, but whatever. It was productive. I enjoyed it. So yeah. So that's it. So yeah, if any of you have any ideas or thoughts or anything about how we might be able to do some of this, if there's any kind of like companies out there, they're like, hey, yeah, we definitely would like the idea of a destination training center in the Orlando market. Because my thinking is the nice thing about Orlando is the weather's good, the politics here, taxes, all that make it really nice to have those types of facilities here. And then that just got political, but I mean, it does. Florida's an easy place to do business. But then also it's got Disney and all the kind of stuff that people want to do with their family. So it's the kind of thing you can kind of double up. You could do a 3-day training. I'm thinking of big companies like Emerson and Carrier and these sorts of folks. You could give have a 3-day training and then have everybody go off, because it's just hard, even for big companies. They'll set up these really nice training centers, but then they don't end up really using them because either where they are doesn't make a lot of sense for people to come to. I think of like and again, like this is not throwing stones, but I think of like the Helix that Emerson has there is like one of the most amazing facilities you've ever seen in your life, but it's sort of in the middle of nowhere in Ohio. I mean, as is Emerson's entire facility there. And that makes it kind of tough as a destination center. Whereas Florida, Orlando specifically, got a gigantic international airport, easy to get to. And then there's other things people can do and bring their families and that kind of thing. So I like that vision. Whereas a lot of people see the fruit of the symposium now and are like, well, how did this happen? Well, it happened by just taking a small step at a time. And the first year especially was really messy. Like it was really sloppy. But second year was a little less sloppy, but still sloppy. And this year's still sloppy. But I think better. And I actually felt a lot better about it. And it's the same thing with this vision. It's like, I think this is going to happen. I think some version of what I'm saying here is going to happen. And I would like to be a part of making it happen, but I don't have to be the one who does it all. I would just like to see folks who think it's interesting, give me some ideas and maybe come up with some ways we could do that. So
a couple people online saying keep it the way it is in the chat right now. But yeah, like the atmosphere and the size that it is. Josh Wolf, I got to hang out with him.
Yeah,
for the
he's a
third
great
time.
guy. Yeah.
And
He's not on chat, is he?
he is.
Is he? Oh,
He is.
good.
Yeah. He says keep it the way it is. He loves
Yeah.
the size and the
Yeah.
atmosphere,
Yeah.
which is true. I mean, it's
Josh
really,
brought his family, and we always love seeing them here, and that's fun. Like you see, like at AHR, they don't allow anybody under the age, I think, of 16, and it's for obvious reasons. You got all these giant corporations, and everybody's worried about liability and all that, and maybe we should be, but I don't care. Like I'm not going to sit here and worry about every little detail, of that kind of stuff.
Like when we moved the water up onto the gravel, and you had to step up to get to it. A couple people asked while I was moving it, "Is this safe? Should we be worried about this?" And we're looking around like, not with this group.
Right. We don't have to have a sign here.
Yeah.
Like, and even if somebody does trip and bangs their knee, they're going to be like, oops, and they're going to move on. You're like,
right. That's the group of people that we have.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the cool thing about this kind of event.
Yeah.
You can get like-minded people that have worked their lives in the trades and understand the struggle of putting something on like this, but also just the atmosphere that they're walking into. That casual feels really nice.
It is. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah, it is. It feels comfortable. And in the past, I have gotten really stressed out about all the details. And so going into this year, I just decided like this thing is what it is, and it will be what it will be. And I'm going to just enjoy it and be able to enjoy other people enjoying it rather than getting worked up about the things that are imperfect or the ways in which I could have done it better.
Yeah.
Because there are. I mean, when you put on an event, it's like, you get complaints, you get little, and they're all details that it's like, man, yeah, why didn't I do that?
Sure.
Why didn't I adjust that? Why didn't I change that? Oh, the porta potty's filled up. Why didn't we get another one? Why didn't we think about that? And it's, and you can second guess all that, but that's part of what makes us what we are, is that we're willing, again, this is sort of a technician thing. You don't have to have all the answers before you act as a technician or a troubleshooter. You just move forward. You do the next thing. Like I said, it was so cool to see the little kids running around. I mean, there were babies, and I love that stuff. It was, Joe Shearer did like a gospel message at the end of one of the talks, because that's something that he wanted to do. And I think that's awesome. I mean, I think people having some freedom to just be who they are. Yeah. Exactly. And to express themselves in that way. And
nobody was afraid if they were themselves, or if they showed a little more color, or if they spoke their mind, that they were going to get hushed by someone and be like, no, we don't do that around here.
Right. Well, I mean, there was a couple key words that got dropped.
Sure.
Like, there was, maybe don't say that. But even then, it's like, you get it. And it's the forgiveness is quick. Some of those things. Anyway, it's all good. I think that's it. So just to everybody who's been watching this, this is sort of a weird little live video to do, but I just wanted to kind of put out there, the impetus behind all of this. Thank you all. I mean, everybody who took the time to come down and speak. I mean, people came down on their own dimes to do this, which is incredible.
That's another point. I mean, everyone who came wanted to be here. And you know how different that is. It wasn't like there was a bunch of companies that, they pushed you to be here because you had to go show your face somewhere, or your boss is making you do this, or it's on your way to that next step in whatever certification you need. No, it was like people came because they really wanted to be here. And
even the kind of like the key sponsors, AccuTools and TrueTech being the two title sponsors. I mean, these are not enormous corporations. These are, they're good sized companies, but they are companies that invested significant money in making this work,
right?
Because they believe in it.
Exactly.
And of course that's Bill Spone and Jim Bergman, and then Diversitech as well. I mean, they're a very large company, but when they show up, they've got this really gritty demo that they're doing of the line set cleaner that actually lets people experience it rather than having it so polished and so perfect.
And also helping with education.
Exactly. So. Oh yeah, I mean, Rick Streaker from Packard was amazing. I mean, and there's Chris Mahali got to come for the first time, which was amazing. Russ King from Quick Model, he's a absolute gem of a human. It's so good to see him interacting. So just so many people this year who were new, who maybe weren't able to make it in previous years. And then, our regulars, the Bill Spones, the Jim Bergmans, and all the other people that we've mentioned. Thank you to all of you. It's very humbling to me. I used to hear people say that, oh, it's humbling to me. And it's like, what does that mean? But you do realize, that sometimes, like when you do things like this, you get a lot of blame, but you get some blame you don't deserve, but most of it you do deserve, but you get a lot of credit that you certainly don't deserve. And so I get a lot of
Yeah.
credit for this from people who are emailing me, being so kind, and saying like, but
Right.
you
And I
just,
had people walk up to me like, you made such a huge difference in my life as a career. Hearing you talk about like your life and your focus and just seeing your attitude with work and stuff, and just made me excited about work again. And I just, I'm making more, and I'm so much happy. I'm just like hearing this stuff like, whoa, like maybe I should listen to myself or go watch those videos
take
again.
my own
Like,
advice. Yeah.
What was that? Yeah, that
Yeah.
was surprising and felt very undeserved most of the time.
Correct. That is how it feels. And I think the right response is to say, yeah, I'm humbled by that. I'm humbled by the opportunity to take a very small thing and to do it, but then to have God take that and make something bigger out of it that actually helps people. And
Is it
and
fine to
does
say
serve
I'm
them.
humbled when I feel so proud? Like it's so hard to like.
It's hard to parse that. Are you being sarcastic? You mean, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of myself and what I've accomplished all these years. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess kind of my message moving forward to all of you is keep doing this, because I think some people get the sense that I'm competitive in some way or whatever, but, and I am. I mean, we all have a competitive spirit in us. But when I see these people like Chris Stevens and like Craig, who both have better YouTube channels than I do,
Right.
and who have had so much success and all this, it's like, man, I'm just so glad you're here.
Yeah.
And for those guys and others who are like, if you want to put on an event like this up in the Northeast or over on the West Coast, then absolutely do it. Like that's
Right.
so awesome to me, because I think that's another possibility, and another part of this is that maybe there becomes, versions of this that are regional. Then I don't have to have any say in that. I don't want to. Like
I'll just follow your events and do like after party events that involve shooting each other with bows,
and arrows. Yeah.
Axe throwing. Yeah.
Yeah, we did have some really great dinners and some just great times just talking to people. The only downside to it that ends up happening is nobody gets any sleep.
Right.
Like,
no, that's so true.
It's just nobody gets any sleep,
Yeah.
because you just have this.
I slept 4 hours on Sunday in the middle of the day, and I never can sleep in the middle of the day. 4 hours just is out.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah,
It was great.
It was definitely a recovery, but it's for good reason. It's not like this great wild. I mean, because some people get a sense like, oh, wild partying. It's not it. Like, yes, some people, some people drink a little bit, but it's because you have this time with these people that you don't get time with.
Yeah.
And you don't want to give that up. I mean, you don't want to, you don't want to miss that time.
Right.
I ended up having breakfast with Andrew Greaves after the event, just because we didn't get to spend enough time just kind of talking about our lives and stuff. So you just never feel like you have enough. But anyway, yeah. So thank you to everybody. Huh?
I'm jealous about that.
Well, maybe maybe I was name dropping a little bit there.
Maybe just a little bit.
Maybe
You're just trying to make me a little jealous.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Anyway, so event's going to be up again soon. Tickets will be on sale for next year very soon. We're going to try to get ahead of it this time. We're going to actually buy out some Airbnb VRBO houses.
Ooh, cool.
So that way we've got extra housing, because that was an issue. There just wasn't enough space nearby. And that's
people
also
sleeping in tents on the edge of swamps.
Well, it wasn't a tent. It was
practically a tent. You obviously didn't hear the story.
It was intense.
Practically a tent.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I
He's
heard
great at storytelling.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of really great storytellers in the old community. Yeah. That is for sure. So I'll finish by focusing on this camera right here.
Is that us? That's us?
Yeah. Right there. This guy.
Hey guys.
Hey. Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
So nice. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me, Bert. I appreciate it. I'm not going to shake your hand.
Okay. Well, it's good seeing everybody, and I can't wait to see everyone again.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Have a good one.